Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Charlestown City Council. Today is June 3rd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. We'll begin our meeting with our customary pledge of allegiance. If everyone would please join. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight for our invocation, we have Pastor Christopher Burke from the Charlestown Independent Church. Pastor Burke, the floor is yours.
Thank you all for having me. This will be a short prayer. Father, we just want to thank you for this beautiful day. This is the day that you have made, and we are glad that you did. And we just pray, Father, that each one of us would live out the purpose that you have for us on this day. Lord, I want to pray for this board. First, I want to thank you for their service to the city of Charlestown. So many people right now are having dinner with their families, but they are here serving the city, and so we want to thank you for that. And for this board, I just want to pray two things. One would be humility. We just pray, Father, that they would never think too highly of themselves or too lowly of themselves, but they would just be focused on you and the people that they serve. And then the second thing is wisdom. There's so much going on in the city right now, so much development, prosperity. We thank you for all of it, but there's a lot of moving parts, and so there's a lot of decisions to be made. And so we just pray, Father, that you would give your wisdom to this board. Your word says that if we ask for wisdom, that you will give it, and so we are asking. Lastly, I just want to pray for the people of Charlestown. We pray for your protection over them. We pray for the purity of our children and teenagers. We pray, Father, for their prosperity as well. May everything that is said in this meeting be to your glory, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm not going to stay. Okay, good.
Roll call, Bo Bertram.
Here.
Ronnie Blevins.
Here.
Shannon Elder.
Here.
Brian Hester.
Here.
Chuck Deaton.
Here.
Let the record show that Mayor Hodges and Clerk Treasurer Donna Coomer are also present, along with City Attorney Perry McCall and Council Attorney Michael Long. We have an agenda that's been provided. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Ronnie Blevins. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shannon Elder. Any edits or questions about the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. You have your standing business, which includes the approval of the minutes from the meeting on May 6th, our current claims, and the payroll allowance docket from April 29th to May 26th. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Ronnie Blevins. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that you, Brian? Second by Brian Hester. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Are there any public comments? Anyone signed up for public comment? Ma'am, if you'll come forward and state your name and address.
Debbie Smith, I live at 8824 Saddle Ridge Trail. The only thing it's really a request, where Woodford Farms is and the houses that back up to the road, the high street, the grass is so high that people pulling out there, they can't see if somebody stops or is coming or not. I've seen them pull right out in front of me. I know they stopped, but they can't see. So if there's
Thank
something you could do about that, that would.
Yes, ma'am. We have a side cutter that they're trying to keep up with that. Unfortunately, just to respond to you, the rain has been so crazy this year. They are trying to keep on schedule and mow that once a month. If they feel like they need to mow it more than that, I'll be sure to mention that in our staff meeting. But they only mow, Tony can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 6 feet from the road, because that's the place where they can mow. Technically, it's the lot owners that have to mow the rest of the way down. So we've had a staff member that's been out for over a month for code enforcement. Now he's back, and he's been very active without stickering places for high grass. I'll make sure that he pays special visit to that area.
Yeah, 6 feet would work.
Yeah.
You could
Okay.
see.
I'll get with the crew, make sure.
There are a couple that actually mow that themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they're supposed to, so, but we'll get that side cutter out just as quickly as possible and get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes ma'am, thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Our legislative youth advisor would not be with us. Sometimes you'll find in the summer, we don't see a lot of them because they're out of school, we completely understand that. I have no other comment, no special comments other than just to say that there are a lot of activities that are going to be happening because it is summertime, and I would encourage you to make sure you're checking out the calendar of events. Brian, our media person, often sends out emails, but he is on vacation this week. So if you have any particular media requests, send them to me or to Hannah, just at cityhall.com, City of Charlestown, cityhall@cityofcharlestown.com, and we can try to fill you in on anything. But he does have everything posted on the calendar of events and scheduled posts to go out on our social media. So some of those start this weekend. The first Freeze Pop Friday, for instance, is this Friday. Bo, I think that's in your area. It's at Bertram Park this Friday. And those run from about 3 to 4:30. Everybody's welcome to come, whether it's in your neighborhood or not. Please come out if you can. Okay. Council comments.
I do have one. I was reached out to, and you and I have talked about this, about in Dan Christian land where they're gonna put the industrial complexes, the meter for the water pump and the building for the water station. A resident out there reached out to me, and she was very unhappy with the location. And you and I talked, and it's maybe a location that's unavoidable. But I went out there and looked, and it is it's a very bad place for it to be, because you pull out right, as soon as you pull out at the end of that drive, all you see is that water pump, it's an electric meter with a fencing around it. Now, I know they tried to cover it up, make it look nice, but it is, when they came and met and talked about this, they promised to put berms up. And, you know, I'm not against Dan Christian, I think they're a great partnership with Charlestown, but I wish they would have done a better job of hiding that a little bit better. I know it may have just been a location, they couldn't do anything with it, but it is not what the residents of Jordan Drive were told was gonna happen.
So some of that is not, although Dan Christiani did the excavation work on that, that is a Watson Water project. So the design and everything that would have been done would have been managed through Watson Water, because it is a water line extension for the service for that area. That is what's actually providing the fire protection now for Jordan Drive that they previously did not have, which is the flush hydrants. So it actually serves their neighborhood quite well, and is an improvement. Unfortunately, due to the way the easements work, the utility easements are usually only within 25, sometimes 50 feet of the roadway itself. And what that means is from the center of the roadway. So where they had to put that line, they're kind of restricted on where they can put it. As far as creating a berm between there, then it becomes a line of sight issue as well for eventual traffic pulling in and out and accessing. So I did talk to the engineer that's affiliated with that project, and he said he was going to reach out to Watson Water to see if there are any kind of vegetation that they can plant along the road to try to improve the look of it, because he understands the need. But again, that one really was out of even their control because it is a utility-based project.
I completely understand. I just wish that something would have took consideration.
Yeah.
If they could have done anything to make it not look the way it does. It's,
Yeah.
I don't live there, but as a resident lives there, that's a pretty bad thing to look at when they pull out. So it's just kind of, you know, and they've also, you know, there's been mention about trying to widen High Jackson. That will be right in the way. I don't know if they'll be able to widen it that way, because that meter and that fence is probably 8-10 feet off the road. It's really close.
Okay.
So I just want to bring into consideration that they could do something just to improve the aesthetics of that. It would be greatly helpful to people in Georgia.
Well, they have been made aware of it, and so
Thank
see
you.
where they go with it. Yep. Other comments from council members? Okay. Our only item of business tonight is I need your feedback on the Hidden River drainage design and issue. So this is not something that we haven't talked about before, but we're at a point where in order to move forward, we're going to need council action of some sort. Harold Hart has been working on this issue. If you recall, there is a substantial flooding problem at the entrance or onto Hidden Cave Court in Hidden River Valley. It's something that they tried to address years ago, and unfortunately the pipes that were installed, the culverts that were installed under High Jackson are just slightly higher than they need to be. Harold Hart is here and can provide details about the proposed design that you see in the cost estimate. My apologies for not getting these to you with the package out. He was still finalizing some details, but I told him it was imperative that we get this in front of you tonight because I need to know how you want to move forward. Harold, do you want to briefly explain the solution here for the council?
Yes, I sure can.
For the record, I'm Harold Hart with Hart Surveying and Engineering, 958 Water Street, Charlestown. We did some surveying, did some topography along the cul-de-sac, and then looked at the elevations of the large corrugated metal pipes that go underneath High Jackson. Those pipes are about 1.5 to 2 foot too high or elevated above the actual cul-de-sac. So you have to get a very intense rainstorm event for the water to even build up and go through those large corrugated metal pipe culverts. Has it ever happened? Yes. You can see evidence of that in the riprap, where you can see where the geotextile and the riprap has been turned on the downstream side. So they have been activated, but it would definitely be during your higher rate storms. What we're trying to do is give some type of relief around the cul-de-sac or Indian K Court or Hidden K Court and figure out what we can do. So what we plan on doing is propose putting in either a 30 to 36 inch pipe about 1.5 to 2 foot lower than the corrugated metal pipes underneath High Jackson. And what that allows us to do is it will, with the regrading of a long linear ditch, we're able to capture the smaller rainfall events that inundate the cul-de-sac. So I don't know if you've seen pictures. I was out there during one rainfall event. I was amazed at how much water goes in that cul-de-sac. It's over a 40-acre watershed that gets drained there, and it actually gets led to one sinkhole. And sinkhole, and just the way it's graded through there, just can't handle that 40-acre watershed. So what we're trying to do is divert it away from the sinkhole and then take it down and towards the corrugated metal pipes to the new proposed pipe, and then take it on down the natural drain. I have been in contact with the landowner downstream, and we kicked some ideas around about far as how we can install like a cattle crossing down by his beef barn and everything else, and then rip wrap some areas, and he was very happy with the idea that we're at least reaching out, talking to him, and trying to come up with a solution that will benefit the drainage in the surrounding community as well as help him with his needs, because the way it's been situated down by his feed barn is just a muddy mess when you get down there, and hard to maneuver because of the cattle and all the water that is being sent there. So we're actually helping the landowner downstream as well as the residents in Hidden River.
So we've been working on this for really about a year.
Yes. I was
Trying
brought on
to,
board about a year ago.
yeah, because it started, and we've been the reason it's taken so long is because we've had engineering meetings with every single resident. We opened up to every single resident of Hidden River because we want to understand it as a comprehensive solution. So this is a phase 1, and we hope that with this phase, it will mitigate the majority of it, and we won't be able to really know how much of a phase 2 we will have to do further upstream until we see the impact from this.
Correct.
We felt like fixing it at the lower ends, as water's running downhill, capturing it at that point, and trying to move it through would be the first solution. So after multiple meetings with all of the residents out there, and then Harold working on this, we've also had listening sessions with those residents to take their feedback. And this phase impacts, is it 4 property owners?
Yes.
4 property owners. So there will be some easement access required. I've been in regular contact with the people who came to the listening session and wanted to get updates. I usually email them monthly updates of where we are when I have something new to say. But we're kind of at a point where we're stalled out, and I need to know how the council wishes to proceed. Harold has also put together a draft of a cost estimate that you can see along with this. I will stress that this is a draft based on just the...
Right. We don't know how much like property acquisitions will truly be in obtaining the easements.
Right. But the people, I will say that the property owners that we need easements from, they are eager to have this problem fixed. So I don't expect any problems getting those easement accesses at all. They've all been very fair to deal with and excited to have this fixed. And there is a 10% contingency, construction contingency added to this total as well. A couple of the options, you can see that the rough total or the draft total comes to $414,755. Couple of options for moving forward with this. We could go with the traditional bid process. If we do that, Harold what percentage do you believe this to be?
Right now, we're probably about 95% design. The last phase of this is really getting with the landowners and drawing up the easement documents.
So to this,
The engineering portion is pretty much done.
to date, we have paid Mr. Hart's bills associated with this project and the surveying and everything out of the edit infrastructure. That funds that are available every year, there's $30,000 in that fund every year, and he's done. There's no more to be able to pay from that fund to complete design. So one way or another, I'm going to need to come up with funding solutions for this and probably require an additional appropriation. If we go with the traditional bid process, then we will need to pay Mr. Hart to finish the design and manage that bid process for us through the Board of Public Works. And that would be a sealed bid process where we would advertise. It has to be posted twice, before the deadline. We would need to give a certain amount of days for them to, usually 45 minimum, so that they have adequate time to construct their bid, put their bid together and come back. We do not know what those totals would be, and that's a process where we would award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Those plans also leave in place, or those kinds of bidding also leaves in place sometimes contingency plans with change orders along the way. We cannot prevent change orders with those processes. The other option that the council has to consider would be to do a build, operate, transfer. This is a statute that you've adopted a couple years ago. We've used it for other projects. We're using it right now for the Highway 62 pump station. And the confidence that the council can have in that is that when you do a BOT, you're accepting, you still have to bid it out, you still have to put out the call, but you're basing it off of qualifications, not the bid number. And typically, groups will respond to those BOTs and they will have financing options, they will have engineering options, they will have the construction option and the project management option all in one package, just like they did the Highway 62 pump station and some of the other projects we've done in the city. And what you get with that is a scoping period where they assess it, and then once you choose them off of qualifications, they do a scoping period, and then they come back with a guaranteed maximum price. And so there would be no change orders. You know exactly what you would be paying for, exactly how much it would be, and the council is the one who awards that. So while the bidding would be managed through the Board of Works, the council would be the one that would ultimately say, yes, we're awarding this project to this group of company at this price. So I need some direction from you on how you want to proceed with this. Attorneys, did I summarize that to your satisfaction on those two options for bidding? Is there anything you want to add?
As far as the bidding process?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're also going to have to fund this. And my gut looks to, and I mean, obviously it's not the only answer that we can consider, but the most easy answer in front of us is to appropriate money from our cash reserves. When the water utility was sold, it was very public at that time that the proceeds from that sale would go towards sewer and stormwater enhancements. Since the city does not have a drainage fee or a drainage fund, there really aren't any other options to fund this. You can't pay for this out of sewer, you can't pay for this out of sanitation. There is no specific fund set aside for this. So I'm just putting this in front of you for feedback. You don't have to take action tonight, but I know that those residents are really eager to get moving on this. And I will say that if you decide to say that you want to go through a BOT or traditional bid process, there's nothing that mandates that I'm aware of that you would have to immediately award that, but I think that we need to start moving on that. It's June. So I would like to get this done. We've been fortunate, although we've had rain events this year, we haven't had a rain event that has caused the significant flooding out there that we've seen in the past, but the year's not over and it will continue to be a problem. So I'm just opening it up right now for your questions, comments, and guidance on how you want to move forward with this.
If I may just say something.
Yes.
The mayor said this was first phase. Hidden River is adequately named as a subdivision because most of the Hidden River all drains into sinkholes. So what this design or what's being proposed, being brought in front of you, takes that 40 acres watershed off the sinkhole system, which may allow at later dates, allows the other sinkholes to work more efficiently. So we talked about, it's affecting 4 landowners, but actually it can actually affect everything throughout the whole Hidden River system, because the residents that were surveyed, as far as asked questions, there was lots of backflow, and the sinkholes in the other locations weren't accurately drained.
So is it correct then to say that if we could divert this water away from those, that it would more adequately allow those
The
sinkholes to
probability
do
would
their
be better
job?
because we're taking 40 acres of watershed that's draining into one of the main sinkholes off the system.
So we may not need a phase two,
That's right.
but we know we need a phase one.
Right, and that's exactly right, but I just wanted to,
Yeah.
just bring to y'all that it's not just helping 4 properties for this,
Right.
it can help the whole system. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything right now stopping from starting the traditional bid process?
Just the guarantee that we will have funding to be able
Guarantee
to,
the funds?
yeah. And I don't know how much to ask you to appropriate, because I don't know what those bids are gonna come back as. What I would need is an assurance that whatever the traditional bid process returns, that the council would be willing to fund. Do we have the funds in cash reserves? Yes. I mean, you have roughly 2 or 3 million in cash reserves. It's not gonna be that expensive. Do you have the money? Yes. But the thing that's holding us back at this point is the assurance that we will be able to pay for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
What's the downside to the bill transfer operator?
The downside,
I mean, that'd be a downside, or we wouldn't have another proposal. I would have another option.
I logically, I mean, I guess the downside, the critiques I've heard of it, as I really, there's not a downside to either of them. But the critiques that I've heard of it, sometimes people say, well, it's not truly a bid process because you're selecting based on qualifications, and so you're selecting companies, based on knowing who the company is and what they could provide. But the award doesn't really happen until after they have made their presentation of what they will do the project for. So that's I think the only downside, because with the guaranteed maximum price, it is a process that is allowed by state statute. It's a process that we've used. It's a process that other communities use. It's a process that can be done with a committee, so it isn't just the Board of Public Works that can pick those. This literally could be, you could assign 2 council members to be on that review committee when those quotes or requests for qualifications are returned. And 2, the only reason I say 2 is because, you can't put 1. If you wanted to meet with those, or really, I mean, I see no reason why the council couldn't award it if you really want to. I mean, ultimately, the council's the one that does it, it's just that the Board of Works meets, over it. So usually the receipt of those bids are done through the board.
And by utilizing that, I mean, that process doesn't indicate that those individuals or those companies can't be in the bidding process.
Right.
It's simply a more exclusive way, looking at more, I guess, jobs that have been performed before.
Yeah.
Being able to look at those particular engineers.
Just look at a
as
resume
opposed-
versus a number.
Yes.
But those people could still be, the resume people could still be your number, you know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily exclude those people from being eliminated,
Right.
and they may be in that bidding process.
With the BOT, they compete for the project based off of the team that they put together and the expertise that particular team brings. And so they usually, in their response, will include jobs that they have done and completed that are similar. They will include a list of references. They will say, look, we've done this similar job before.
And your traditional bid is just lowest man wins.
Well, most responsible bid. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily have to be low total.
Right, it's not always low total,
Right.
because when the bids come in, we always have engineering, it's always pending final engineering and legal review. So even if you do a closed bid process, to be fair, when we read out the bids, whatever the lowest apparent bidder is, would go back to Mr. Hart as our city engineer for him to review that and say, well, they didn't respond to this, or they didn't offer this, or they're missing this element. And so there have been times, for instance, with our paving contract this year, our community crossings paving contract was done by that sealed bid process, and the apparent low bidder was actually not awarded the project because they missed key components that were required in the bid, in the call. So,
You talked about how much to appropriate towards this. How close do you think we are on that final price that you put together?
That's a fair question. I would say most of my numbers are pretty solid. I do not know what the land acquisition as far as easements would be,
And easements with the owners.
That, well, it's not so much, because we would go and have those appraised and come back, but there was a small project up along the Ohio River that was a simple easement, and the number that the appraisal came back about floored everybody. So I don't know what the appraised amounts are going for today, I'm not just a surveyor and engineer.
Right, I
So
understand that.
I just put in a $50,000, I think I would have put in there as a placeholder, thinking that that would be halfway.
So,
But I can't guarantee that, because I just don't know what the appraised values would go for today.
so that 50,000 is.
That's
for-
probably the least confident one I have,
Right.
and I'm being very forthcoming, because I don't know. The rest of them, I feel like are pretty solid. I
Okay.
talked to 2 or 3 other contractors about unit prices and installation, so I feel relatively comfortable with all the other numbers except for the.
And that's all 4 properties.
Yes, most of the properties were working in the right of way. It's really, there's 2 main ones. One that's the, Adam, I can't think of his last name, he's the downstream.
Alger.
Yes, and then the other one is Mr. Johnson, I believe. That's the 2 that we really need to get easements. The rest of them were working, or trying to work, keep our grading all within the right of way. So there's 2 easements I know for sure that will have to access.
But as far as the easement is concerned, I mean, there was some talk about, based on the project and how it's gonna benefit those particular owners, that perhaps they'll be willing to give the easement without adding.
There's that possibility.
That we need to
That's
figure
right.
that out at that point. Since they're putting in the work there and it's gonna benefit the property. It might be
Correct.
proper to get to the, I don't know who would be that contact person, but it might be the place to start to see what that cost is going to be, if there is gonna be.
I think there's some willingness to do that.
Yeah.
I won't speak for all the property owners, but I think there's some willingness to.
Right, just an inquiry. Well, trying to get the lesson.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Just in my opinion, I like the idea of the build operate transfer, just working with redevelopment a little bit. I see a little bit of that. We talked about it a lot. I don't like the idea of change orders, just because I've seen them in my professional experience, and they can be extremely high. I like the idea of the BOT. And I mean, I think we're pretty close. Who's gonna have those discussions with those property owners whenever you talk about the easement and everything?
So what we'll do is we usually will have Perry as for the legal representative of the city, and then Mr. Hart will explain to them the impact. We do have one of the property owners who has a project and engineering background, and he's been particularly inquisitive about how it will impact his property. And he's one of the properties that has a larger impact. And so I would probably make sure that he gets one-on-one time with Mr. Hart and Perry to talk about that. And then the other 2 that I know, they're very eager to have this done, but those are right-of-way areas right along the DK corridor, so. Yeah.
Okay. That's my opinion.
I like the BOT also.
The BOT has less risk up front for the city because of the guaranteed.
Just want to make sure you have a quality product, you know, it's
Absolutely.
not that the bid doesn't. I'm just saying,
I
obviously,
understand.
like a little more assurance.
Do we have to appropriate money tonight for that if we wanted to move forward? I mean, do you have to appropriate up front, or we
No.
wait for bids?
No, I'm not telling you have to appropriate until you know the amount. So
Okay.
I can move forward with the BOT without any additional transfer of money, let me be clear. Mr. Hart has done this so far with the funds that we have available, and we can publish this request for qualifications and have them turn it in, set a 45-day turnaround for that. They'll be received in a board of works meeting. I'm happy, we can then share those out, with the committee if you want to assign a subcommittee to review those and give feedback. What they usually include is a rubric, a grading score sheet rubric, where we look at the different features that we're considering in the packet. That all goes out with a part of the bid, and so they know kind of what, the response is. And then we have everybody kind of grade it without talking to each other, just in looking at the responses. And then we collect it, and usually Tony helps me with that. We collect them in, because he is our MS4 coordinator, so he would collect them and kind of look at them comprehensively and give them basically a grade at the end and say, well, here's your score, and here's this score. And then he would say, well, the recommended performer is this. And then we usually authorize, the Board of Works would usually authorize them to move forward with the scoping period, because typically there's not a large cost or no cost during the scoping period a lot of times. They usually ask for anywhere between, depending on the size of the project, 30 to 60 days, sometimes 90 if it's a big project, to do the scoping period. But when they come back from that scoping period, whichever group is awarded the project, they are not truly awarded it until that point. So they will come back and they will say, here here's how we're gonna do this, here's the design, and it's gonna cost $416,002. And then you will know how much you need to appropriate. And this council gets the final vote on awarding that project to that group and then appropriating the money. So the board of works does not, they just do the nuts and bolts of it. They don't award the actual project in the end.
And you're on Board of Public Works, so you'll get, so you're all in this.
No, he's on redevelopment.
On redevelopment.
Yeah.
Me personally, I mean, I like the idea of moving forward. We've all heard about this for at least a year. So I know I have, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I mean, I think we need to move forward in it. I mean, we're just talking.
Yep.
Do we want to?
We gotta figure out where we're gonna be with that property acquisition. I mean, those two gentlemen right there, they'll figure it out.
Do you want to committee that?
Do you want 2 people from this council to be a part of the review committee?
I would like that.
Okay, I just need to know who you guys
I
want.
think us being on a committee or anybody from the council being on that committee, that way they see the whole process. It'd be good for several people to be involved, just hands-on the whole time.
I just need to know which 2 you want to have included. I don't think the council president gets to do the note.
Oh, is that the way of the world now?
Those guys.
I think you should be on, a lot about grading and all that
Oh,
stuff.
that's hilarious.
I mean, if nobody else wants to, I mean, I don't speak out of turn, but I've been around this kind of work for many years, and I don't mind being a part of it.
I think you should be part of it.
So what I would recommend is, for the actual just review of the project response, I would include Tony Jackson as our MS World coordinator to do, yeah, no, that doesn't work for you, sorry, he's out there. So I would include Tony Jackson as the person who would review this. I would ask, you as, if the council, has a reviewer, I always draw like odd numbers because that gives us a nice,
Well, I think another correct person to be up from the council would be the person sitting next to me because she lives there.
That's my house right there. Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with it.
Okay,
If
So-
everybody else is fine.
yep, we'll have Tony and the 2 of you, and of course I will also ask the Board of Public Works, so that'd be, and I won't rate them, so I'll have the other 2 rate them as well, so that'll be a nice odd number. We'll have 2 Board of Public Work, well, they can rate them individually, we'll have 2 Board of Public Works that will review them, you 2 will review them, Tony will review, and then it'll be presented at the Board of Public Works meeting when it comes back with the person that has the group that has the score. Does that work?
As long as I get that next time for Brian.
Good luck.
That's quick.
All right, so what I will do then is, we will move forward with the language that we need, Terry, to advertise that, and Harold can help with that. So Harold, if you'll give us the language that we need to get that advertised, give them, I mean, at least, I think a 45-day turnaround, so you and I can talk about the calendar when that would be due.
Yes, ma'am.
To the city, and then when they come in, they can come in to me as president of the Board of Public Works, and what I'll do is disseminate out to those that are on the review committee. You'll have time to look over them, score them, make a score sheet, send your score sheet back to me, and we'll move from there. Okay? Sounds good. All right, are there any other issues that need to come forward?
When you do that, we need options on how we're gonna pay for this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just something we gotta talk about.
Well, and that's
gotta
part of
get
it,
there
so the part of you will not have to make a decision on how you're gonna pay for it until even after the scoping period is done. Because the group that you award this to, whoever gets the award, will consider financing options as well. One of those options will be pay cash on hand, but they will also have financing options to consider as well. And sometimes they will finance it, they become the financier themselves. They have a financier that's attached, and you don't have to pay it all at once, but yes, that will be part of it.
I just don't wanna make an assume that we're just gonna jump into our cash reserves.
I understand, that's why I said it's an option, but it doesn't have to be the only option,
Right.
okay?
I agree.
And I'm sure that our clerk treasurer can also help fund.
I'm making a note of it right now.
Go find money, Donna. All right, are there any other issues that anybody needs to bring before the board? All right, we just need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Motion by Chuck Eaton,
Second.
second by Ronnie Blevins, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're adjourned, thank you so much. Make sure you sign for Donna.
the appraisal would support it, because there is an appraisal out there for 900,000.
And we did that for Mrs. Kleiner, just
And dealt
for.
with taxes, protect.
That gets him
Oh, hang on. Do you, can I give you like a thumb drive with it?
Yeah, I'll make it.
All right, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order of the City of Charlestown Redevelopment Commission meeting for June 4th, 2024. Everyone would please rise as we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do a roll call vote to determine a quorum. Benita Pate. Bobby Brooks.
Here.
John Spencer.
Here.
Chuck Deaton.
Here.
And Derek Combs is also present. We do have a quorum. Everyone's provided a copy of the minutes from our May 8th executive session and regular session.
I make a motion we approve those minutes.
I'll make a second.
We have a motion and a second by John and Benita. Is there any questions, further discussion? No further discussion. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
We're getting ready for the public presentation. I just
Okay.
need to make sure that it's got that. Would you rather have it in PowerPoint or PDF?
Next up is
Or do you
a
want me to email it to
presentation
you?
on the 2023.
I can only email you a
Will we
PDF, the
agree?
PowerPoint's too thick. Okay. All right. Okay, it says it went through.
I'll get there when I get there, you guys. I'll let you know when I've got it.
Okay, thank you. You could do the claims if you wanted. In the meantime, we don't have to, but we could.
While
They
we
don't
can get the
depend on the
presentation
presentation.
set up, we'll move on to the claims. Everyone was provided a copy of the claims. Ask for a motion to approve the claims.
Hold on a second. If you don't mind, we need to add a couple of things to the docket that weren't on there. There are 2 Frost Brown Todd invoices. You guys sent those out in your packet. Sorry, I got total written on here. 2 Frost Brown Todd invoices that total $1,095. I also wanted to have the one of the appraisal invoices approved, but we can wait until the next meeting if you want on that one. So if you could add to that, in addition to the docket, the extra invoices for $1,000, not $1,095 from Frost Brown.
I make a motion that we approve the claims with the amendments that Jill stated, the additions that Jill stated.
I second.
We have a motion and a second by John and Bobby. Is there any further questions or discussion? I'll ask for a vote to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Don't believe there's anyone signed up for public comment. You want to go on to your consultant
Sure.
report, Joe?
My report was sent out in the meeting packet. I'll highlight a few things to be able to answer any questions that you may have. We continue to get calls from people wanting to do commercial and residential development. That's good, even in this economic climate. So hopefully some of those will come to fruition. Also on the facade program, we are all our outstanding facade projects have been completed. We did get an inquiry about another building that we told them that it was actually from Superior Vault, but for a different building that they own that faces the park. I'm not sure which building that is. Evan and I communicated with them when the next meeting was and when the dates would, that they should have that application to the city and then go through the process. So I think they're gonna be working on that, maybe for next month. We might have another one there. And then, something we discussed briefly, at previous meetings is the Lily/Ready request for the Charlestown Landing new DNR State Park entrance, where we would do improvements to Charlestown Landing Road and extend that to park, the actual park, where the park would then have their own, construct their own gatehouse and have a new entrance there instead of on Highway 62. The Lily applications, which are available, the money's available for either arts and culture projects or blight elimination, which that is part of that. Then we sent in, the city and Mayor and I worked on an application, sent it in today, the deadline's tomorrow at noon, for a Lily request. The request was around $5 million to Lily. It included also the removal of the Quonset huts that are there and potentially the construction of a new public works facility, since the Quonset huts are the public works facility right now.
Haven't the Quonset huts received historic landmark designation? No.
I don't know, John. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they have. Maybe someone could take them and
Their aesthetic
repurpose them.
appeal is beyond compare.
It is. In certain settings, I think. There's a lot of things that people use those and refurbish those and live in them. So I think they do have purpose, but their highest and best use is not a public works facility. Plus they haven't been rehabilitated for many years. So hopefully that project will then activate the corner as well. That really hasn't been rehabilitated, even though it's in use. It still looks like it did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So we did that. We'll keep you posted on that. And I still have not gotten any, I'm sorry, Chuck?
What's the estimated time they get back to us on that?
It's a good question. So there are two different application rounds. One is the Lilly Endowment, which the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is the entity that will decide where that money goes. There's a $250 million pot that the majority of that's going towards blight elimination, and then the rest will go towards arts and culture projects. It actually goes to the RSON RDA, and they review it, and then they submit their projects, 4 projects for each category, to the IEDC. And the IEDC decides. So that is due tomorrow, and I know that the IEDC wants the recommendations by the beginning of July, and then they'll make their decisions. The Lilly Endowment money is not restricted to regional boundaries, so the IEDC can spend what they want wherever they want within the state. Whereas the Ready money, which is the other pot of money that we will also go into that pot as well, the applications are due to the local RDA on July the 12th. And then those will go through their vetting process, and then they'll talk to the IEDC about those applications. So what we've been told is that money would be available potentially in the fall of this year. Or at least awards would be made by then. I can give you other more specific dates, but you know, the way that this program has worked, those things change. And that's not the fault of the local RDA, that's the IEDC changing different requirements
I was just kind of
and
curious.
timeline.
But like you said, timeline.
Everything that we've structured, at least in these applications, has us getting some type of award if that happens in September.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I still haven't heard, I don't think the Court Treasurer's Office has received any guidance related to this annual spending plan that has to be submitted in December for next year. Hopefully in the next few months, they'll come up with the rules and requirements for that. And then we'll work on that in the fall to make sure that we get that into the Department of Local Government Finance. So that's what I had on my report. If you have any questions, we'd like to try to answer those. If there's something that I didn't report that you have questions about. We should, I've been asking the developers on both Forest Edge and Shadow Lake to come in and give a quarterly report, or at least submit one, so that should come up next month. So,
I think they were moving into their office this week at Shadow
I
Lake.
believe it's this week or next, and then I talked to somebody as well that they're like ready to break that ground on stuff we've talked about over right there off of the Christianity Parkway. I mean, they're excited about that as well, so a lot of big things happening over there.
there's a lot of things, good things happening. So, I think once they get in, they're supposed to have some type of, you know, okay. Do you want to go to the
Yeah,
presentation?
we'll jump back up to the 2023 annual report presentation.
Thank you. So, you had this in your packet, and as, just to refresh your memories, this is something that we have to do each year, not to be confused with the annual report that we have to do and submit to the DLGF prior to April 15th, or on or before April 15th. Then we also are required to do some type of public presentation on those annual activities, and we usually do ours in June. So these are, I'll go through this quickly, but I'll be glad to stop if you have questions. So these were the 2023 commission members. They're pretty straightforward. And then on the next few pages, we talked about the different TIF areas that you have, starting with the central Charlestown area. That was the original. Then we had a couple of expansions of that area. Then we added in 2018 the Indian American area, which was a spider TIF that was put into effect after the city sold the water system. So that is a mechanism that touches everywhere where you had a water line, along with the North Charlestown Economic Development Area, which is where the former hospital is. And then the Renaissance Project, which is the ARC project on the corner of the square. And then most recent ones, which most of you will remember, is the Depot Street, which is where Forest Edge is, and the Shadow Lake areas. Right now, the areas within all but Depot Street and Shadow Lake have been assessed. So we receive, with the exception of the North Charlestown Economic Development Area, you are receiving revenue on those other TIFs. Once Shadow Lake is assessed with the improvements that are made there and the apartments are online and assessed, then you'll start receiving that revenue as well. On to the next one. These are the overlapping taxing units. A little bit later in the meeting, we'll consider a resolution as to whether you want to pass through any excess TIF revenue that you have to any of these overlapping taxing units for 2024 paid 25. But, so the county solid waste district, the city itself, Charlestown Clark County Public Library, Charlestown Township, Greater Clark Schools, and Charlestown Fire. The next one, we have two diagrams that are similar, but this one I feel like maybe explains things a little bit better when talking about how things work with or without TIF. So with the TIF, the basic mechanics, you have a base AV, which can be shown by the dark blue in that cylinder. That is continuing to pass through no matter what. So all the pass-through taxing units will get that amount of money no matter what. What the TIF does is we put that in place to capture that incremental assessed value to make improvements within that area or surrounding area. So until such time that TIF rolls off, then only the increment goes into the TIF allocation fund. the taxing units still get what they've always gotten. But until such time, if you don't mind going to the next slide, until such time that that TIF is terminated, then all of it then passes through to all the units. But in the premise behind that is, if not for the investment that you're making, so using real life examples, if not for the investment you're making in Shadow Lake to do stormwater improvements, to construct the roadway, to put the signalized intersection and rail crossing there, that development would not have happened, and therefore the pass-through units wouldn't have received an increase in their assessed value later. Does anyone have any questions about that? So then we get into a little bit more detailed information about each TIF area, or excuse me, each of your funds. So the redevelopment bond for Forest Edge, that was a separate bond that for our contribution to them, that we, as part of the development agreement, that we did a bond and contributed $2.5 million to the Forest Edge development. So that was set up, excuse me, through the Depot Street TIF, but this was the proceeds that we got from the bond, and as you can see, not at the end of last year, but the beginning of this year, all those proceeds have been distributed. So, and that was part of the development agreement that we were going to do that. So I think in February of this year, we went ahead and dispersed the rest of that to them. The next one's Central Charlestown TIF Fund. So that was your main TIF with the expansions. And that shows how much you had cash balance in 2023 of 1.5 million. Received 1.2 million last year in revenues from that. Those were your expenses. And then your end balance for that fund was 931,000 last year. When we move on to the Indiana American TIF, which at the beginning of the year, that balance was 506,000. You received revenues of 374, and there were no expenses out of that. So the balance is 880 at the end of last year. We move on to the North Clark Hospital TIF. We received $3.12. And that's what our balance is. We did not receive any additional TIF revenue for that last year. When we go on to the Renaissance TIF, I think that became fully assessed maybe last year for 22 paid 23. Or no, next year I think we should get, this year, 23, 24 would have caught the addition that the phase 2 of that. So I think this is based on just phase 1. And so we had started to receive revenue on that about 2 years ago. So our balance now is at 178, or at the end of the year is 178. And the next to TIF revenue, TIF fund. There was one TIF fund, okay? So in the beginning of all this, there was only one TIF fund, but there were several TIFs. So several years ago, and some of you will remember, we went through an exercise with Baker Tilly, probably in 21, to go through all the data, figure out which parcels were in what TIFs, and separate those out. So finally last year, even when it came into the county, it went into one TIF fund, even if it was in separate TIFs. So we straightened that out. Last year, we were able to set up different TIF funds. And so this fund went away, if that makes sense. The next one is Shadow Lake TIF, which nothing that's been constructed has been assessed yet, so that's 0 for now. And the same with Depot Street. We get into, this is the neutralization report that Baker Tilly puts out. It's supposed to be, projected revenue estimates, which this has the assessed value for 24, or paid 24 at $79 million. Those numbers, especially the projected revenue estimate, it fluctuates some. I think we'll be close to that, but we won't really know until we get that first installment to see who pays their taxes and who might not. So, while we look at that and use that in some of the budgeting, we understand that that's not, it's just projected. Then we go through, and I'll be glad to go through any of these that you want, but these are activity or highlights that of some of the projects that we did in 2023, from finishing out the Renaissance 2 to additional facades, Charlestown Flats, the bod that we did at Depot Street, and the creation of some of the TIFs development agreements. There was a lot of work that we did. We've done a lot of work in 22 and 23. And the next page this is just a continuation of all of those projects. And then we get into, after those, which is a lot more than what it looks like on paper too, but I purchased or at least we were in the process of purchasing the H&R Block building, which we finally, closed on in 2024. Then on the future activities is the next, we still are working on Shadow Lake, obviously. So there's still some additional roadway, the intersection improvements, all that hopefully be completed this year. As someone mentioned earlier, the Christianity Legacy Complex there with the shop and the office will be completed or is completed and moving in now. I know that they have some purchase agreements that they're working through on some of the industrial parkland that they have to offer. The group that is the buyer has been to city council and has asked for tax abatement on those buildings. So I think once some of the permitting and other things are worked out there at the intersection, then that will go through. So that's great. That will help us as far as moving forward to get some additional revenue into that TIF to make some additional infrastructure improvements we need to. We've also got some things going on in Shadow Lake Park that we did we commissioned like a concept plan from HWC and then broke it down into 3 phases to develop Shadow Lake Park, and so we're working on that. The purple area in that diagram is more of the residential, commercial section that's called Shadowbrook Farm, I believe. That will require the Christianity Parkway to be extended in order for you to have access to that area and start developing it. So those are all future activities. Then the next one, Depot Street, as you can see, it keeps going up and things are under roof on those outlying buildings. And so, it's nice, except for the mayor probably doesn't think so on some days. But it's nice for me to drive by and see that, so that I don't have to get the dust and the dirt. So that's good. We should see, last I heard, they wanted to, they would be in a position to lease the 2 outbuildings, the 2 smaller buildings, not the rat building, at the end of the year. Then the facade grant program, we continue that. I think that's been a success. I really like those 2 pictures, especially that Big G Supply, to show the difference and what it, not to say, oh, this is horrible, but to show the transformation that a small amount of money can make in a program is great. So, and then, so we'll continue those. And then the next one is 101 Market Street, also known as Charlestown Flats. They have, as you can see, there north of Pike Street, that they've started to really do some excavation work there. So that'll be a great development for that working, workforce housing, because that project is an average, I think, of 61% or 60% of the tenants have to meet certain income level, but not 100%. So it'll be a good mixed income development and a good quality as well. If you all have any questions, that's the end of
No, that's an excellent
my
report.
presentation.
Thank you for putting that together, sharing it with us.
and for giving me the opportunity to do it. And thank you for Evan for putting it together.
Thanks, Ed.
Again, thank you, and that concludes the annual report. Moving on to new business, we have two resolutions to consider tonight. First one is Resolution 2024-R3, that's the excess TIF distribution.
And this is required every year by a certain period of time, it's in June, that you must decide and notify those overlapping taxing units if you are going to pass through any excess TIF that you have available. At this point in time, as you probably know, you don't really have any excess TIF to pass through. Right now, we're not in the position to have that much excess that doesn't, we have to meet our obligations. And we have 4 outstanding pieces of debt right now that we are paying for with the TIF, along with some ongoing projects that we're utilizing that for. I would hope at some point the city could be in a position that you would have an excess that you could pass through. Individually, you've passed through by some resolutions earlier in the year, you passed that through in that way. But this resolution states that you are not going to pass any excess revenue through for 24 paid 25 tax year. So that's what this states. If you agree with that, then I would ask you to approve that resolution.
Make a motion to approve 2024-R3 the way it reads.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion or questions?
I just want to reiterate what Jill said both in her presentation and just now. We did a large contribution to the school corporation so that in a sense is passing on some of our revenue to another taxing entity. And I think we do try to be really good stewards with that. We understand that they do sacrifice something by us using this, but as Jill explained in the presentation, it's really important that we use these funds to increase our value overall in the city, and in the long run, I believe they'll benefit from that. And I know sometimes it's hard to grasp that for those taxing entities, but we think we're doing what we should do for the betterment of Charlestown.
Thank you for that explanation, John. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a vote to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The second consideration is Resolution 2024-R4, the proposed purchase of 813, 815, and 821 Short Street.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, so, yeah, this resolution is for approving the acquisition of the property Derek just mentioned, 813, 815, and 821 Short Street. It is will be acquired for economic and redevelopment in the city, and the property this approval is to purchase it for a purchase price of $750,000, which is less and does not exceed the average appraised value of the property determined by 2 appraisers. And we'd like to go ahead and get your approval of this resolution approving the purchase of the property for $750,000. And then I think separately, we'll do just an approval for the due diligence costs and the closing costs. And there's also a $5,000 earnest money that will deposit into escrow, which when you close gets applied to the purchase price. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of
the Short Street properties.
13, 15, and 21 Short Street.
We have a motion by Chuck, is there a second?
No second.
Second by Bobby, is there any further questions or discussion? No further questions, I'll ask for a vote to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We also need to do a motion for those other.
Yeah. Just to give, I guess, me authorization to begin the title work and also take care of phase 1 for that, as well as authorize the commission president to execute, let me stop. as well as have the commission agree to pay the $5,000 earnest money within the time stated in the purchase agreement once the offer is accepted. Was there one other thing?
The resolution that was just approved actually has built into it, just for the record, authorization for the president to sign the purchase agreement in a form reasonably approved by him and legal counsel. So I don't think we need to separately,
So-
just so the record, that's
Okay.
in the other resolution.
So then we would need a motion to approve the due diligence work to do the phase 1 on the property, do the title work, and then to approve the $5,000 in earnest money that will be paid upon the time limits within the purchase agreement once the offer is accepted from the seller. And then we can work with clerk treasurer's office to get that where it needs to go and the time frame it needs to be there.
And already did that. Can we add one
Yeah.
additional thing? Can we say also reasonable cost of closing?
So to add to my motion from earlier, my second motion is to do everything that they just said.
Yeah, and she's
Got
got
it.
that.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Benita. Is there any further questions or discussion? No further discussion, I'll ask for a vote to approve. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
And ladies, thank you for everything you've done with all that. Appreciate it. Means a lot.
Our fingers crossed that it goes through and nobody changes their mind and
Yep.
we move forward.
That concludes the resolutions for tonight. Is there any further discussion anyone has? I do have one question. On the entrance, the new turning lanes they're putting into Shadow Lake, is the stoplight, has that been fully approved, and what's the status of that? Is that next
Don't have an answer for you. I know that, when you think about this, Derek, that there was an issue with the city was working out an agreement with the rail company. I think the traffic light and all of that is okay. The sticking point was getting the agreement between CSX and the city. And I think part of that's been shifted over to the Board of Public Works because they're probably the entity that, once that's there, the city's gonna have to maintain that, which will come out of our redevelopment purview and go into the city's normal Board of Works.
Can we do
Okay.
it?
Yes, please.
Since Rock provided an update on that. The city attorney, Perry McCall, has taken over this issue with CSX. He's working directly with a representative from CSX because part of it is we want to ensure that the developer writes install a concrete crossing there instead of asphalt, just for the longevity. I'm sure that's probably preferred. If we've done our research correctly, Chuck could probably speak better to that, but the concrete, although it might be more cost up front, has a longer term, longevity for lack of having to repair. So Perry is negotiating that directly and clarifying all the documents will be in place so that we can assume ownership of that after it's installed. So that's where it is right now. The traffic signal design, everything else is done. River Ridge contributed a part of that design, half of the design cost for that. And once this last piece of legality is worked out with CSX, they'll be able to move forward with that. So.
Okay.
And I think that's the trigger to for the purchase agreement on the spec sites at the industrial park as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. It will take time. I mean, it is more upfront cost. Concrete crossings right around $240, $250 per foot, per track foot. So it is more upfront, but the longevity is probably 10 times the life of an asphalt crossing.
Okay.
And part of that conversation, and I know Chuck and I have had this conversation, is that those that had the asphalt at the crossing now are going back and trying to, when they replace that, put in that concrete. So it'd be better if we could get that structured into it.
It's worth the wait.
The other issue that might come up too is that it's gonna cost more money. It might be something that might come back to us. I don't know that it will, but I don't know that the guaranteed maximum price did not include that, but it was my understanding that the railroad kind of governs part of that as well, so it wasn't the contractor saying we're just gonna put asphalt in, that there's some coordination with the rail company as to, they design, this is how it's gonna be and this is what you're gonna do. So, I think that's why I
Obviously,
like
I'm
that
not a part of
coordination.
that right now, or anymore, but, I mean, in the past, I've seen, it just takes time, they gotta work through all the little points, like Treva said, I mean, there's a lot of things you gotta work through, but longevity, it's smart to put concrete in there, you probably won't replace that, we won't replace it in my lifetime.
Especially the type of traffic that we anticipate at that crossing, for that development, as well as once that area develops. And I think a lot of people are gonna use that to get to Charlestown to bypass some other places.
Just to kind of give everybody a background, the bottom of the crossing for a concrete crossing, the ties are 10 foot long. And they're about 10 inches wide and about 10 inches deep. A regular tie with a little bit of rubber asphalt, it's probably rubber is about 3 inches wide with the asphalt. It's not as big a tie, it's not as good of a base, so that's why the longevity is, I mean, and the PSI on the concrete is way up there. It's set for 6 months to a year, just curing, so that's why it's so much more worthwhile, especially with heavy loads.
Okay.
To that point, this will be a heavily, not commercial, diesel vehicle passageway.
Do what?
This will be a heavily diesel.
I'd say big trucks, a lot of big trucks will be going in and out of there, so.
Yes, and I think, you know, I don't know if anybody's driven out. I guess Shadow Lake Christianity Parkway runs, I'm gonna say north and south, even though it might not be exactly north and south. And then Shadow Lake Drive then goes out to Christianity's complex, which they have, you know, garbage trucks, dump trucks, you know, heavy equipment, as well as the type of traffic that's gonna go to whatever's developed in the industrial park. If that's more warehouse logistics, then there's gonna be some heavy trucks going through there too on a regular basis. Not to mention all the cars that might use that to pick up their kids and drop them off at the middle school and all those things that will happen.
It'll be very, very heavily traveled, so.
Okay, thank you for those updates. That concludes the discussion. Moving on to the adjournment. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. If there's no further discussion, we'll ask for a motion.
I got one more thing to say, and it's not really redevelopment, but I do appreciate all the city employees and their work that they did after the storm, Memorial Day weekend. Get it cleaned up, and Mayor, I appreciate what you did to help them get that accomplished and stayed up with them, and I know they value that support. It was nice to be able to have the memorial service out here on that Memorial Day, despite all the stuff you had to do to make it happen. So I think sometimes we forget how much the city employees do, working all night to clean that stuff up, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm sure that, don't worry, we made it up to them, we bought them food. And
Good.
Thank you, John. This time we'll ask for adjournment.
Make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Please don't forget to sign the claims docket.
Yep, that's a sound meter.
That's how much sound is going.
Yep, you always want it to be in the green. Occasionally it's okay to be in the yellow. You never want to be in the red, because the red is when the speaker stops making the right sound.
No. Like it's okay to get to heel. Like about to this level.
Yep.
Why is there like one dot?
Hey, you made it.
Why is there
How's it
like
going?
always like
Good, you?
one dot?
Good.
of-
That
You
shows
said you
you
weren't
how high
coming
the
back.
level is.
Do what?
You said you wasn't coming back.
I was trying not to, but
You're
here
here
I
every
am.
meeting. You ought to be on the board, man. You're here every meeting.
How do I
How much y'all get paid?
Nothing.
Oh, well.
Let me sit down for a second.
That's what they told me one time. I was mouthing off. They said they're gonna take your pay, and I said, so. This is kind of a thankless job, about like yours.
Yeah, yeah,
Except you do get a little pay.
just a little bit.
Yeah. A lot more than you used to, but it should be a lot more.
Close enough to free.
I wouldn't do it, you know. Wouldn't want to anyway.
I got about 10 or 11 years left.
making sure?
And then you
No.
wished you had a job.
Yeah.
It's like me, I'd like to be able to go to work in the morning, but I'm not able.
I told my wife I'll be a stay-at-home husband.
Yeah. My oldest does that. He was
Just going to bed.
40, quit, and stays home and watches
Goes
his
to
two
like
kids.
about
Sounds
Yeah, she was,
So when I
of course, she's got a good job. She's CPA.
Yeah.
Owns part of the firm, but she decided that he's better with the kids than her, so he just stays home.
See,
I told him you had to keep her happy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife I was gonna do when I retire. Problem is, my son will be probably
but then
24 by
Good, good, good. Go to the races any?
A couple.
I can't go this weekend. I'm going to alumni. Nikki's not too happy. And all that, on the way. Cars and all that. You know, it's like, once he meets all the people down there in the hollers.
black stuff out.
I can see him slowing down though. He's, of course, Scotty's 79, you know.
Yeah.
You know. Record, the old cab over Ford, I've been trying to get him
This morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Charlestown Board of Public Works. Today is June 5th, 2024, and it's 10 a.m. We will begin with our customary Pledge of Allegiance. Titus, do you want to lead us in that again today since you're here? You did such a good job last time.
Sure.
Okay, you know the drill.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Titus. School's out for summer. Let the record show that all board members are present, as well as the clerk treasurer Donna Creamer and our city attorney Barry McCall. We have an agenda that's been provided. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Ernie Thompson, second from Maggie Wild. Any edits or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. We have our standing business, which includes our minutes from May 16th, 2024. Our current claims, I do need to read in 3 additional claims that came in late just because of the cutoff from the registration for these events. You may remember that we do paint classes and then the science camp, and the way they do that is they sign up for the city and they pay the city, and then we cut a check. We don't make any money off of it, we're not out any money, we cover the check. Well, the way that the sign-ups fell, the deadline wasn't enough time for Deborah to process and get these on our regular claims roster. So this would be $250 to Redheaded Princess Designs for the paint class, and then 2 for science camp, both for Daniel Dietrich, who does our science camp, 1 for the mini day, which was $2,250, and 1 for the full day, which was $3,150. We had an outstanding participation in the science camp this year, so I need to read those claims in. With those added in our payroll docket from May 6th to May 26th, entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion from Maggie Wild, second from Ernie Thompson. Any questions on any of those? All in favor say aye. Aye, that's unanimous. Yeah, the science camp filled up. It's going on now, and he's had an outstanding.
Great.
Oh, it was outstanding. We were a little nervous because in the full day, I think it was like $200 or so, $225 to sign up, and people loved it. Yeah, he's a great teacher, so they really enjoy that. Before we get into our new business, I want to pause for a moment. I know it's not on the agenda, but I'll take the liberty of, and I think you'll understand why. So yesterday morning, I got a call from our staff that there was a fire in progress on Level Street, and that there were 2 families involved, 2 households involved, and they made it out safely. And part of the reason they made it out is because of the heroic efforts of one of our young members of our community. Zoe, would you like to come up? So Zoe stepped into action, and she was asleep. The whole family was asleep, from what we understand, and she woke up because she knew that something was wrong, and she smelled smoke. And because of her quick thinking and action, and she didn't panic, she kept a cool head, she was able to get the entire family out and notify even the family next door that they needed to get out. So we want to formally recognize you, Zoe, for your quick thinking. Some people don't react that way in tragic situations, and you did, and you should be proud of yourself. And I know you're very humble about it, but you are in fact a hero for saving your family and everybody involved. So we have for you a challenge coin from the city of Charlestown, and it says this challenge coin recognizes outstanding contributions to the city of Charlestown. And then the clerk treasurer and I have signed a certificate of appreciation for you as well, so that you can keep it. We're very grateful for your efforts of what you did. Okay, if you want to give Zoe a big round of applause. And I can get the board and Dawn may come down and take a picture with Zoe so that she can have that. If everyone wants to come down, you want to hold your certificate?
Break the camera. Get my skinny side, Chuck.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Omit me.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, good job.
Lindy.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, a little deviation there from the agenda, but for a worthy cause. Yes.
Yes.
All right, next up, we got our Chief of Police, Eric Cruz. He's got a presentation of a ride-along policy and waiver.
All right, I'm gonna roll along, they put me in the back.
Yeah, well, that's part of the policy. I guess they said you're not allowed to come, so.
Okay.
I've got General Order 24.0605-A. There's a ride-along program, general order that we've made. This would allow civilians or other sworn law enforcement, anybody interested in seeing the day-to-day functions of our police officers to be able to come out, fill out a waiver, and go on a ride-along with one of our police officers. This proposes rules, policies, and procedures for our officers to follow, from safety all the way to what they should be wearing or how they should be or not be interacting with some of the public. With the general order, we also had attached the waiver that the person would sign. This would help us promote, one, transparency, so if anybody was just interested in knowing how we operate and come out and see. Two, anybody interested in a career in law enforcement, then come out and ride along and see if it's actually something they would enjoy and want to start a career here. So hopefully you've had a chance to read through it. I don't want to read it verbatim, but I would ask for a motion and a vote to approve.
Well, I particularly like that it includes a provision for media as well, because that was one of my concerns was filming of things that maybe they shouldn't be filmed or that we wouldn't want, or, you know, just for the protection of people's identities and respect for privacy. If you're doing a ride-along, you're not necessarily encountering people on their best day. So it's glad to see that included in here. And I assume that, or Perry McCall, you've looked over all this in the waiver and.
Yeah, a while ago.
Okay, all right. So I need a motion to approve the General Order 24.0605-A.
I'll make that.
I have a motion from Ernie Thompson, second from Maggie Wild. Any additional questions for Chief?
Long as I don't have to ride in the back.
We can arrange that.
It has been.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
All in
Yeah,
favor,
thank you.
say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
The next thing up is, so as you know, we've been kind of working through nonprofit agencies that use city facilities on a regular basis. We worked out a lease with the Rose Island Players, who store stuff in use, the Arts Enrichment Center. Next up on our list includes the Charlestown Senior Citizens. It doesn't really change anything about what they're doing over there. They've been using the AV Center for years for their Tuesday gatherings. It's just we're trying to get it codified so that everybody knows that they are allowed to be there and it protects them and it requires them to have some insurance. So that lease has been provided. It's the same general principles. They have to maintain their status as a nonprofit agency, and I think their quote rent is $1 a year. It's just a nominal fee just to have that. So I need a motion to approve their lease and use for that property.
I'll motion.
I have a motion by Maggie Wild,
I'll second that.
second by Ernie Thompson. Any questions on that? And Perry and his group drafted this, so I know it's good to go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. I don't have it in front of me. The conflict of waiver form, I think Heather had that.
Oh,
Okay,
it's
well,
in your, it's in there.
is it in her packet? Okay.
Oh.
Although it may not classify as the true statutory definition of a conflict of interest, I asked our employee Clifford Trump to fill out a conflict of interest form, and they are required to be reviewed or approved in a public meeting, and so that's what we're doing today. The reason I had him fill this out is because Cliff had a previous agreement with the city to do some mowing of properties, mainly the medians that you own, 62. He does the majority of those for us. And this has been going on for several years. That's outside of work hours. He does that with his own equipment on his own time. And then when we recently hired a new round of employees, he put in for the job and was hired as a full-time employee. So what this conflict of interest form does is it just describes the work that he does and acknowledges that he is a full-time city employee and that that additional work that he does and is compensated for happens on his own time, off of regular work hours, and does not include city equipment. We'll consider it here, and then since he mows the lift stations for the sewer board, they'll do it tomorrow as well. Just a formality so that we've covered all of our bases and make sure that people know that he is aware that he is not to be doing that work while on city time. So I just need a motion to approve. Motion by Ernie Thompson.
Second.
Second by Maggie Wild. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. I'll have to figure out where I'll sign on that because there's several things. The next item is our engagement letter with Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly is our financial consultant, and we have asked them to give us a letter of engagement that would review, periodically it's important to review the rates for our utilities to make sure that we're charging a rate that is appropriate and that the utility is not spending more than what we're able to make in revenue. It's very important to note that the sanitation, trash collection department is only fee-based. So property taxes are not going to this department. The only way that it funds itself and pays its salaries and buys trucks is through the fee that people pay for collection of garbage. And so we've asked them to review that and see, the department's healthy financially, but it's good to have a periodic review of the rate to make sure that we stay that way. So that's what this engagement letter does. In addition to that, the engagement letter also asks them to look at the possibility of a stormwater fee. We were designated an MS4 community last year. That means it stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. They do this when you get close to 10,000 in population. It's mandatory over 10,000, but sometimes before you reach 10,000 because of growth or development or whatever, they'll designate it. And this comes from the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. So we received that designation last year. Tony Jackson has been designated as our MS4 coordinator. He's attended all of the training that goes along with that, and Tubby Purcell works with him on that for stormwater management. Part of that is they require us to fund the utility. This is a state statute. State law says that if you are an MS4 community, you have to fund that utility. And the only way we can fund that, of course, is through user fees. We cannot use property taxes to fund that. So we would like to engage Baker Tilly to take a look at that and see what that impact would be and how that would work. So we don't have any answers, and we just need Baker Tilly to help us get those answers on those issues. That's what the engagement letter that you presented does. And so I would need a motion and a vote to approve. Motion. I have a motion from Maggie Waddle. Second by Ernie Thompson. And they had their individual, on the rate study, they had their hourly fee. Partners and principals, which we don't have to use a lot of partners and principals, are $400 to $600. Managers, $275 to $400. Consultants, $175 to $275, and support and interns, $110 to $175. I will say that Baker Tilly is very good and very respectful about our time and finances. We've used them for a number of years. They were not Baker Tilly, Donna, who were they? Umball?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've used a lot of these representatives for many years.
20 years.
Yeah, so they've been very, very good to work with, very responsive.
Been here that long?
So anyway, all right, other questions about the engagement? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. You may recall, the next item is our picnic table contest. You may recall that we approved several of the picnic table designs. We also had one submitted late from Red-Headed Princess. It was just a general springtime design. And then Allison Basham, who has painted for us before as well. So we had two additional to add. So what you're being asked to approve today are the honorariums. Carrie has collected their W-9 for every person who's going to be painting. They were scheduled to be painted last Saturday, but with the weather, they weren't able to. One of them has already started, so when you leave here, I highly recommend going and checking it out. It's the one that has the Charlestown theme on it. If you haven't seen it yet, she's doing a fantastic job on this table.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Have you looked at it? Oh my goodness. It's got the clock, and it's got our state bird, and our tulip poplar tree, and it's got the peonies, the state flower. It's got our little insect, our state insect. I mean, it looks fantastic. It's right out on the square. She's not finished with it, but it's
What
almost.
she has done is
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Very.
So some of them started working on it, but we're hoping that they can finish them up at the market this Saturday. But anyway, the names of those would be Megan Stump, Alyssa Ramsey, Redheaded Princess Designs, Claudia Hernandez, Hannah Pearson, Gabby Basham, Crystal Flynn, and Allie Basham. They've all submitted their W-9s for payment, so I need a motion to approve those $100 honorariums for them.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Ernie Thompson, second by Maggie Blyer. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And that is unanimous. We'll give them their checks and get them paid when they get it done. All right. Next up is our Founders One Glow musician contract. This is with Brady Evan, one of the musicians to play on June 22nd for Founders Day. His performance time is from 6 p.m. to 6:30. The contract amount is $300, and it's our standard contract. Perry has reviewed, I actually wrote these years ago, so he has reviewed them. He has attached his W-9 as well. Just need a motion and a vote to approve the musician contract with Brady Evan. Motion by Maggie Wild,
Second.
second by Ernie Thompson. Any questions on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Two other contracts for us. Our Grinch is insanely popular. If you have not been out at Christmas to meet our Grinch, you're really missing out. He is absolutely phenomenal in character. And Julie Hester, who coordinates our markets, our pop-up markets, has a Christmas in July scheduled. And so the first contract would be to allow the Grinch to come, and Carrie has this available in her summertime entertainment. We expect him to be a big draw. He always is. We have his W-9. We've engaged with him before, so we have all of his information on file. So you actually have two contracts for him. One is for the Christmas in July from 10 to 1 p.m. for $500, and that'll be on July 13th. And the second contract for him is for our Christmas season. So it'd be November 30th, December 7th, December 14th, December 23rd, and he runs from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's $500 a night for a total of $2,000. Staying contracts we've done before, and we have his W-9 information. So I need a motion to approve both of those contracts.
I'll make that.
I have a motion from Ernie, and second from Maggie. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye, it's unanimous. Last item that we need to cover is on the agenda, but I realized we needed to reschedule our June 19th meeting. So we are closed on our next regular scheduled meeting date, which is on June 19th, that is Juneteenth. That is Founders Week. So we'll be very busy, but we happen to be closed that day for the Juneteenth holiday. So I need to know your preference on rescheduling that.
We'll do it Tuesday. Tuesday, all right.
Let's see. I can only do it Tuesday if we do it at 9:30 instead of 10.
You'd have to call me.
At 9? You do it 9 on Tuesday? You're just killing the regular.
Jesus, you're killing me. You're killing me.
I can do 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 18th.
Call me at 9 till.
I'll call you. I'll call you before 5 till. I'll call you at
Yeah, the last
8:30.
time you called me.
Because I called you at 5 till before me to wait on you.
That's the fastest I ever drove.
Randy's in the audience. He'll know to call you.
That's the fastest.
I can go pick them up for you.
There we go. Yeah, get that ride along, Ernie.
Believe me.
There's your ride along.
Believe me, I've had a few of those.
All right, so we will reschedule our June 19th meeting to Tuesday, June 18th at 9 a.m. here at 304 Main Cross in our council chambers, as always. All right, Randy made a note of that. All right, we'll get that advertised and get that done. That is all I had, so unless there are other matters to come before this board,
Tuesday.
I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Ernie. Second from Maggie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Don't blame where we have signed.
and mainly sat most of the time. I think I got to go to the bathroom like once or twice or
Do
something.
you have it on a
But the
phone
turkey
by any
flight,
chance?
I got to walk around like 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I was like, I got to move.
Yeah, I lived in Bangkok for 5 years.
Oh, shit.
And that flight, it was 36 hours door to door. From my house in Bangkok to my house I was living in Florida at that time, but
Yeah.
the leg from Atlanta to Narita, Japan was 16 hours in a plane. I mean, just,
I think Turkey was like 14 and a half.
I wanna go to Turkey so bad. I mean,
I wouldn't go now. Like,
no, I know, I can't, you can't go now, but I really.
When we went, we had governmental like people with us. We had no issues whatsoever. The only thing that happened over there when we were over there, we were actually in Antalya, Turkey. It's on the Mediterranean southern coast of Turkey. It's a resort place. Like, these resorts were ridiculous. It was the prettiest water I've ever seen in my life. There were waterfalls cascading into the Mediterranean, but we were down there. While we were down there as part of our trip, there were 2 trash can bombs from the Kurdish Nationalist Party in Istanbul. One was outside the U.S. Embassy.
Yeah.
So, now, I went to, after that, we went to Moldova, Ukraine, and Romania. And Moldova's like the poorest country in Europe. It's tiny, landlocked in between the other 2 countries.
It's okay.
I took a picture, we were walking past the U.S. Embassy, and like I had like someone take my picture in front of it because there's an American flag. Security came out, like confiscated my camera, my passport, and everything. I was like, I'm an American citizen. They're like, you can't take pictures of our embassy for security reasons. I was in Moldova, like, no one gives a crap about that country.
Well, that's wild.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be like jailed for taking a picture in front of my country's embassy.
I understand, I've been in a couple of, yeah, that's,
Because I'm in my email right now.
Right. In college, I worked in Randall Road.
If you can put it to a drive,
Fran
I can
Casper,
load it up on here.
a good friend of mine, and so and Fran, she's this little 4 foot.
Hopefully I'll make it back for the start of the
Raised
meeting.
in 90 pound lady, and she's still